When he broke my wings, I grew my own. The Rise of a Forgotten Wife. My name is Ariel Thompson, and this is the story of how the man who vowed to love me shattered my spirit piece by piece, until I rose from the ruins he created and built an empire he can never touch. If you've ever been broken, silenced, or underestimated, this one is for you. Before I continue, please subscribe to my channel to see more interesting stories. Thank you. I still remember the night my world cracked. Our small apartment in Austin, Texas was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and my newborn son's soft breathing. I had just finished nursing him when my husband, Marcus, stood by the doorway with a look I'd never seen before, cold, sharp, almost disgusted. He said my body didn't snap back. He said I looked tired and unattractive. He said staying home would help me work on myself. Those words, they didn't cut. They stabbed. Before childbirth, he used to kiss my scars like they were stars. But that night, he stared at them like they were the reason he was failing in life. I tried to smile, tried to remind him how much he loved me. But he walked away, muttering something about wasting his youth. That was the moment my soul went silent. For months, he insisted I stop working so I could heal. And I obeyed, believing it was love until his promises dissolved into resentment. He barely provided, barely spoke kindly, barely saw me as human. I had given him a child. He gave me abandonment while standing in the same room. Little did he know, the silence he forced into me would one day become the storm that destroyed him. The complaints started small. A sigh here, a side-eye there, a subtle jab disguised as a joke. But soon, Marcus found something wrong with everything I did. The food, the laundry, even the way I held our baby. And when money got tight, I naturally assumed he was carrying the financial weight alone. Until one afternoon, I checked the fridge and found nothing but expired yogurt and a half-empty bottle of ketchup. My son's formula was running low. Marcus had promised to pick him up on his way back from work in Dallas, where he claimed he had been doing contract jobs. But he came home empty-handed and smelling like expensive cologne he didn't own. "Ariel, stop acting entitled," he snapped. "Money doesn't grow on trees," I whispered. "But where is it going, Marcus? We have nothing." His jaw twitched. His eyes darted away. That was the first time I knew, not suspected, knew something was off. He was spending, just not on us. And then came the night he told me, "You're becoming a burden." I didn't sign up for this. A burden. That word echoed like a curse. I held my son close and cried silently as Marcus slept peacefully beside me, unaware that every insult was carving my exit path and sealing his fate. Her name was Cynthia Harris, a middle-aged woman with a warm smile and the kind of presence that made you feel seen. I met her at a small park in Round Rock, where I often took my son to escape the tension at home. She noticed how I sat alone, shoulders curled inward, eyes tired. "You look like someone carrying a weight she didn't pack herself," she said gently. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Instead, I broke. The tears wouldn't stop. I told her everything, the insults, the starvation, the loneliness, the confusion. She listened without interrupting, without judging. Then she reached into her bag and handed me a small paper bag with toiletries, wipes, and even baby snacks. "It's just a start," she whispered, "but you need to rebuild yourself before you rebuild your life." I didn't realize it then, but Cynthia was the first person to give me hope in months. She invited me to a small women's support group she ran from her home. "You're not broken, Ariel," she told me. "You're buried. And buried things can grow." Those words planted something inside me, a seed Marcus had tried to kill. And for the first time in a long time, I felt sunlight. Cynthia became my sanctuary. Every Tuesday, I would take a bus to her home in Cedar Park, where a group of women, survivors of toxic marriages, financial abuse, and emotional neglect, gathered to heal. They didn't just talk. They taught business skills, self-development, reading recommendations, mindset training, even simple exercises to rebuild confidence. I devoured everything. At home, Marcus barely noticed the shift in me. I started waking earlier, moving with intention, taking long walks, and watching motivational videos on Cynthia's old laptop. I read books about resilience, marketing, and online entrepreneurship. Slowly, I began exercising in the living room. Crunches, squats, planks, tiny movements that made me feel alive again. One morning, Marcus mockingly clapped. Trying to lose all that baby weight? Good luck, Ariel. I didn't respond, not because I was weak, but because I was finally learning where not to waste my strength. Then one night, after he left for yet another business trip, I sat at Cynthia's kitchen table and told her, "I'm ready to earn again." She smiled like she had been waiting for those words. And that night, we began building the foundation of the business that would one day change my life and Marcus's destiny. It started with something small, selling curated wellness kits online. Cynthia taught me how to source affordable products, how to package them beautifully, how to create simple video ads using free apps. At first, it was slow. A few sales a week. Then dozens. Then hundreds. By the third month, my sales exploded across Amazon handmade and digital marketplaces. Influencers in Los Angeles started featuring my products. A wellness blog in Miami wrote about my brand. Money didn't just come in. It flowed. I opened a business account, then an LLC, then a new savings account in my son's name. All in silence. All without telling Marcus. He was too distracted to notice. His nights out became longer. His excuses became thinner. And his business trips became more frequent. One evening, he came home trembling, not from anger, but from fear. He had lost a major investment in Las Vegas, he said. A friend betrayed him. He was drowning in debt. I almost felt pity. Almost. Because the real twist was this. While he spiraled into bankruptcy, I had just crossed my first million. And the man who called me a burden was about to learn what it felt like to depend on the woman he tried to destroy. The night Marcus finally cracked, rain was pounding against the windows of our Austin apartment like the sky itself wanted to expose him. He walked in soaking wet, shoulders slumped, eyes defeated. "Ariel, can we talk?" He hadn't used that tone with me in years, soft, almost pleading. I stood still, holding my son, watching him drop to the couch like a broken man. I need help," he stammered. "Everything is falling apart. Every deal failed. People I trusted stole from me. I don't know what to do." For a moment, I saw the man I married. Ambitious, bright, a dreamer. But then I remembered the insults, the starvation, the loneliness he forced upon me. "What do you need from me, Marcus?" I asked. He sighed deeply and rubbed his face. "Just support. Emotional support. Maybe some financial assistance. You know, until I get back on my feet." I almost laughed. Financial assistance? From the burden he abandoned? Instead, I offered him a blanket silence, the kind that made him shift uncomfortably. He thought I was still the broken wife he molded. But I wasn't that woman anymore. My phone buzzed, a notification showing another $12,940 deposit from my online store. Marcus didn't notice, but he soon would. This was only the beginning. Days later, while putting away laundry, Marcus's phone lit up on the dresser. A message preview glowed. "Baby, I miss you. When are you coming back to Houston?" My heart didn't drop. It didn't shatter. It simply confirmed what I already suspected. Another message followed. "Did you get the money I sent?" That was it. The missing puzzle piece. The reason our son and I were starving while Marcus claimed times were hard. He wasn't bankrupt because life was unfair. He was bankrupt because he was funding other women, other fantasies, other lives. With trembling hands, I opened his banking app. And what I saw made my stomach twist. Thousands spent at luxury hotels, expensive restaurants, spa centers, out-of-town business trips, all charged to his personal card. He had been bleeding our finances dry for years, feeding his ego and mistresses while I begged for formula. I took screenshots of everything. Every receipt, every message, every transfer. Because revenge isn't loud. It's calculated. It's patient. It's a quiet blade sharpened over time. And I was sharpening mine carefully for a strike he would never see coming. Marcus's pride began cracking. He no longer strutted around the apartment. He moved like a shadow, drained and desperate. He tried to be sweet, cooking dinner, cleaning, buying small gifts. I ignored every attempt. One evening, he walked into the kitchen while I prepared my son's food. "Ariel, you're acting strange," he said softly. "No," I replied. "I've just become invisible to you." His face tightened. "Can we go back to how we were?" "How we were?" I laughed. "When you insulted me every day. When you starved us. When you killed my confidence and funded other women with money meant for your son." His silence was confirmation. "Ariel, I made mistakes." "No, Marcus. You made choices." He swallowed hard. "Do you hate me?" "I don't have the emotional energy to hate you anymore." The truth? I didn't hate him. I had simply outgrown him. He reached for my hand, but I stepped back, giving him a look that made his shoulders fall. He knew it. He had lost me. Not loudly. Not violently. Quietly. Completely. But I wasn't done yet. My revenge still had one final layer, the one that would pierce him deeper than anything I could say. My business had scaled beyond anything I dreamed. I had distributors in Atlanta, a warehouse contract in Phoenix, and a partnership invitation from a wellness brand in New York. I was climbing fast, too fast for Marcus to notice, while drowning in his own failures. One afternoon, Cynthia and I met at a quiet cafe in Georgetown. She stirred her tea thoughtfully as she listened to me lay out my plan. "Ariel, are you ready?" she asked. "Yes." "You understand," she whispered. "Real revenge isn't destroying him. It's freeing yourself." I nodded. My documents were ready. My lawyer, a friend from Cynthia's group, had drafted the separation papers. My accounts were secure. My income was independent. My spirit was healed. But there was one more thing. A property. A beautiful 2-bedroom townhouse in a gated community in San Antonio. Paid in full. In my name only. A safe place for my son and me, far away from Marcus's chaos. I signed the final paperwork that evening. Cynthia squeezed my hand. "You're not just leaving, Ariel. You're rising." The next morning, Marcus would wake up to the one blow that would break him in ways he once broke me. The night felt strangely peaceful, like the universe exhaled for me. My bags were packed. My son was asleep. My rideshare was scheduled for 5:30 a.m. I placed the documents neatly on the kitchen counter. Screenshots of his messages. Records of his financial betrayal. The divorce papers. My forwarding address for legal correspondence only. Marcus stumbled into the living room around 2 a.m., rubbing his eyes. "You're awake?" he asked. "I'm leaving," I said calmly. He blinked. "Leaving to where? At this hour?" "Away from you." His face twisted in panic. "Ariel, no. Please. We can fix this." I shook my head. "You broke me when I needed you most. You made me believe I was worthless. And now that I am everything you said I'd never be, you want me back?" He stepped closer. "Please, I need you." "No, Marcus. You need someone to save you, and that is no longer my job." For the first time, I saw real fear in his eyes. Not fear of losing a wife. Fear of losing his lifeline. As the car pulled up, I held my son and walked past him. He reached out, but his hand caught only air. The door shut behind me, quietly, finally, eternally. And my new life began. San Antonio smelled like freedom. Warm air, quiet streets, the kind of silence that didn't choke. It healed. My townhouse was modest but beautiful. White walls, soft gray floors, sunlight flowing in through wide windows. I placed my son's crib in the master bedroom so he'd feel safe, and for the first time in years, I breathed without trembling. On my first morning there, I stood on the balcony overlooking the courtyard, coffee in hand, watching a line of palm trees sway gently. I felt human, alive, reborn. My phone buzzed endlessly, Marcus.
Calls.
Texts. Voice notes. I didn't open a single one. Instead, I opened my laptop. Orders had tripled overnight. A celebrity fitness coach in New York wanted to partner with my brand. A wellness expo in Arizona invited me as a keynote speaker. Everything I had lost, confidence, identity, control, was returning to me in abundance. That evening, I FaceTimed Cynthia. She smiled lovingly. "You look different," she said.
How?
Like a woman who finally chose herself. I placed my son on my lap and kissed his cheek. This was our fresh start. A new chapter without fear. And a future I would build brick by brick, without Marcus's name anywhere near it. 3 days after my move, I heard a knock. I froze. Nobody knew I lived here except Cynthia, my lawyer, and my realtor. My heart raced as I opened the door slightly. It wasn't Marcus. It was a courier. Delivery for Ariel Thompson. Inside the envelope was a thick letter from the bank, not mine, Marcus's. It stated that several of his accounts were under review due to suspicious withdrawals and failed loan repayments. He was weeks away from legal action if he didn't clear the debt. I exhaled slowly. This was the man who once mocked me for not making money. Now he was drowning financially, and I wasn't there to hold him afloat. That night, out of curiosity, I finally played one of his voice notes. His voice was cracked. Desperate. "Ariel, please come home. I'm not okay. I can't sleep. I'm losing everything. You're the only one who ever loved me the right way. Please, just talk to me." I stared at the phone with a calmness that would have shocked my old self. There was a time his pain would have shattered me. Not anymore. I put the phone on silent and placed it face down. Healing teaches you something powerful. Not every cry deserves your compassion, especially not from the person who taught you to cry silently in the first place. The next twist came unexpectedly. I received a call from an unknown number. Normally, I wouldn't answer, but something in my spirit nudged me. "Hello." A woman's trembling voice replied, Is this Ariel?" "Marcus's wife." My chest tightened. "Ex-wife," I corrected. I'm sorry. My name is Naomi. I don't know how to say this." Her breath shook. She sounded broken. "Marcus told me he was single. He said you left him years ago. He promised he would take care of me, but now he's vanished. I haven't heard from him in days. And he owes me money, thousands." I closed my eyes painfully. Another victim. Another life he drained in his spiral of deceit. "Naomi," I said softly, "I'm not surprised. He has a pattern." She cried quietly. "I saw your name on his old insurance documents. I found your business online. I didn't know who else to call." I sat on the edge of my bed. "Listen to me," I said gently. "You need to walk away. He cannot be saved right now. He's drowning and looking for anyone to pull under." She sniffed. "How did you survive him?" I stopped letting him define my worth. Naomi exhaled shakily. "Thank you for answering." When I hung up, something shifted inside me. Marcus wasn't just hurting himself. He was leaving destruction everywhere he touched. And for the first time, I felt the strength of my revenge taking shape. The next month was a blur of momentum. I launched a new product line, self-care journals with motivational prompts, and they went viral on TikTok. Retail stores in Chicago, Seattle, and Orlando placed bulk orders. My bank balance climbed past $2 million. Every success felt like a stitch closing the wounds Marcus once left open. But success came with responsibility, so I hired a small team, 2 virtual assistants, a marketing strategist in Brooklyn, and a Texas-based fulfillment manager. I held meetings in my living room, my son playing nearby, as I discussed ad budgets, customer acquisition, and branding strategies. One afternoon, my lawyer called. "Marcus has been trying to contact you through our office," she said. "He wants mediation." I laughed. "Mediation for what?" "To reconcile." I took a slow breath, letting the absurdity settle. "He wants the lifestyle he thinks I can give him," I replied. "Not the woman he destroyed." She chuckled softly. "You don't have to respond. I won't. That evening, I stood in front of the mirror, slimmer, glowing, stronger. The version of myself Marcus crushed no longer existed. I didn't just rebuild my life. I rebuilt myself. And that transformation was the sharpest knife of all. One quiet morning, while I was preparing packages for shipment, I received a message from Cynthia. Check the news. Channel 7.
Now.
My heart skipped. I turned on the TV, and there he was. Marcus. Disheveled.
Exhausted.
Surrounded by reporters outside a courthouse in Dallas. The headline. Local entrepreneur faces lawsuit over fraudulent investment scheme. My breath hitched. I turned up the volume. They listed everything: unpaid loans, bounced checks, false business promises, and a trail of angry investors. And worst, his accounts had been frozen pending investigation. He looked lost. Completely lost. The reporter asked, "Do you have anything to say in your defense?" Marcus stared at the cameras, eyes glassy, voice weak. I just want my family back. I need my wife. I felt a strange mix of emotions: sadness, relief, justice. My son, babbling softly behind me, tugged my shirt. I lifted him in my arms, holding him close as Marcus's image flickered on the screen. This wasn't petty revenge. This was poetic justice. A mirror of everything he put me through: public humiliation, emotional collapse, loss of support. Except I survived mine. And he was drowning in his. I turned off the TV and whispered to my son, "Some storms cleanse, some storms destroy, and some complete a story." The next month was a blur of momentum. I launched a new product line, self-care journals with motivational prompts, and they went viral on TikTok. Retail stores in Chicago, Seattle, and Orlando placed bulk orders. My bank balance climbed past $2 million. Every success felt like a stitch closing the wounds Marcus once left open. But success came with responsibility, so I hired a small team: 2 virtual assistants, a marketing strategist in Brooklyn, and a Texas-based fulfillment manager. I held meetings in my living room, my son playing nearby, as I discussed ad budgets, customer acquisition, and branding strategies. One afternoon, my lawyer called. "Marcus has been trying to contact you through our office," she said. "He wants mediation." I laughed. Mediation for what? To reconcile. I took a slow breath, letting the absurdity settle. "He wants the lifestyle he thinks I can give him," I replied. "Not the woman he destroyed." She chuckled softly. "You don't have to respond." "I won't." That evening, I stood in front of the mirror, slimmer, glowing, stronger. The version of myself Marcus crushed no longer existed. I didn't just rebuild my life. I rebuilt myself. And that transformation was the sharpest knife of all. One quiet morning, while I was preparing packages for shipment, I received a message from Cynthia. Check the news. Channel 7.
Now.
My heart skipped. I turned on the TV and there he was. Marcus. Disheveled. Exhausted. Surrounded by reporters outside a courthouse in Dallas. The headline. Local entrepreneur faces lawsuit over fraudulent investment scheme. My breath hitched. I turned up the volume. They listed everything: unpaid loans, bounced checks, false business promises, and a trail of angry investors. And worst, his accounts had been frozen pending investigation. He looked lost. Completely lost. The reporter asked, "Do you have anything to say in your defense?" Marcus stared at the cameras, eyes glassy, voice weak. I just want my family back. I need my wife." I felt a strange mix of emotions: sadness, relief, justice. My son, babbling softly behind me, tugged my shirt. I lifted him in my arms, holding him close as Marcus's image flickered on the screen. This wasn't petty revenge. This was poetic justice. A mirror of everything he put me through: public humiliation, emotional collapse, loss of support. Except I survived mine. And he was drowning in his. I turned off the TV and whispered to my son, "Some storms cleanse, some storms destroy, and some complete a story." The last person I expected to hear from was his mother, Eleanor, a stern woman from North Carolina who once blamed me for every flaw Marcus had. The phone rang late in the evening. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. Ariel, her cold voice asked. Yes. What did you do to my son? I closed my eyes. Of course. The reflexive blame. I did nothing, I replied calmly. Marcus is facing the consequences of his own actions.
She scoffed.
He told me you left him when he needed you most, that you're refusing to help him. I took a deep breath. Eleanor, your son cheated.
He lied.
He abandoned his responsibilities. He drained our finances. She cut in sharply. So you're really not going to help him?
No.
Silence. Heavy, tense. Then she whispered something unexpected. I wish I had been brave like you, she said quietly. His father was just like him. I stayed. I regretted it every day. My eyes widened. Take care of yourself, Ariel, she said. I understand now. The call ended, but her confession stayed with me. Generational cycles only end when someone walks away. And I had. The courthouse in Dallas buzzed with reporters and angry investors when I arrived. People whispered as I passed, recognizing me from Marcus's news statements. Inside, the courtroom felt cold, sterile, unforgiving. Marcus sat at the defense table, hair unkempt, suit wrinkled, eyes hollow. When he saw me, his face softened with a flicker of hope. Ariel, he mouthed.
I didn't react.
When the judge asked me to speak, I took a slow breath and stepped forward. I am not here out of anger, I began. I am here to tell the truth. I described the abandonment, the financial neglect, the luxury spending on other women, the debt he hid, the lies, the emotional destruction. I handed over the evidence folder. Thick, organized, undeniable. The courtroom murmured. Marcus covered his face with his hands as the judge flipped through the papers, frowning deeply. This paints a very different picture from the one you presented, Mr. Thompson, the judge said. Marcus looked up at me, eyes pleading, but I felt nothing. Not cruelty, not joy, just closure. When I stepped down, reporters swarmed, but I walked straight past them. Head high, heart steady. This wasn't revenge anymore. It was justice. And it was only the beginning. He requested one last meeting. Public place. Coffee shop in Uptown Charlotte. I agreed, not for him but for closure. When he walked in, he looked defeated.
Thinner.
A shadow of the man I once loved. Angela, he whispered, voice breaking. I lost everything.
My job.
My home. My reputation. Please don't take Isaac away from me. I'm begging you. I watched him, really watched him, crumble. Years earlier, that would have softened me.
But now?
His tears felt like karma taking notes. I leaned forward. You wanted me quiet. You wanted me dependent. You starved me emotionally, mentally, financially. He swallowed, eyes red. People make mistakes. I nodded.
Yes.
And consequences follow. I slid a document across the table. A settlement. Supervised visitation only. No authority. No control. No access to my income, my home, or my future. He stared at it with shaking hands. Please don't do this. I whispered. You did this. I'm just signing my name. The final court date arrived. The sun was rising over the Charlotte skyline, painting the sky gold, the color of new beginnings. The judge's voice echoed. Full custody granted to Mrs. Angela Carter. Supervised visitation for the father. Financial restitution required. He covered his face and cried quietly. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. Justice didn't need applause. It just needed truth. As I carried Isaac out of the courthouse, everything felt lighter, brighter. This wasn't revenge driven by hate. This was closure shaped by growth. Strength. Healing. Months later, my business expanded nationwide. I was featured on 2 podcasts. My story inspired thousands of women to rebuild their lives. One evening on my balcony, Isaac asleep beside me, I whispered into the wind. I didn't just survive him. I outgrew him. And that, not his downfall, not his tears, was the real victory. The poetic justice wasn't that he lost everything. It was that I found myself. I stood in the parking lot behind the courthouse in Charlotte, clutching the envelope Detective Ruiz handed me. "You deserve to know where the money went," she said. My knees trembled as I opened it. Inside were bank statements, hotel receipts, and text message logs. He hadn't just wasted our savings, he spent it on 2 different women.
Trips to Miami.
Designer bags. Secret apartment rentals. Money that should have bought diapers, groceries, rent money he claimed he didn't have. My breath stilled. The betrayal, sharp, metallic, hit me like someone drove a blade into my chest. I thought I was done crying for him. I was wrong. At home, I watched Isaac play on the living room floor as I held the proof of my husband's selfishness. I whispered to myself. He starved his own child to impress strangers. The anger wasn't fire anymore. It was ice.
Cold. Calculated.
Unshakable. And suddenly, I knew exactly how the story would end. The courtroom smelled like old wood and tension. My husband walked in wearing a wrinkled suit, looking smaller, older, broken. He tried to meet my eyes. I didn't give him the privilege. He expected me to fight for reconciliation. He thought the judge would pressure counseling. He believed I still loved him enough to save him. But when the judge asked, "Mrs. Carter, what outcome are you seeking?" I rose slowly, my voice calm, steady. "Full custody of my son, Your Honor, and financial accountability for every cent he stole from our household while neglecting his family." Gasps echoed. My husband blinked rapidly, shocked. He stuttered. Angela? Custody?
Why?
I thought. The judge raised a hand. Order. Detective Ruiz entered with the financial evidence. My husband's face paled, then crumbled. The judge looked at me. "You've been through hell, Mrs. Carter. This court will protect you." Justice was no longer a dream. It was unfolding, slowly, beautifully, right in front of me. The fallout came fast. His 2 girlfriends discovered each other, and me. Screenshots leaked. His company fired him for ethical misconduct. His credit cards were declined everywhere he went. Friends avoided him like a plague. He was officially alone. But the most crushing blow? His mother came to my house in tears. "Angela, please don't take Isaac away. He's all my boy has left." I swallowed hard. "He should have thought of that before abandoning him." She sobbed harder. "He said you'd come back. He believes you'll forgive him like always." I closed the door slowly, whispering through the crack. "Not this time." That night, I lit a candle and wrote in my journal. He took my voice. He took my joy. He took my worth. Now I reclaim all 3. He once forced me to rely on him. Now he relied on me just to survive. Poetic. He requested one last meeting. Public place. Coffee shop in uptown Charlotte. I agreed, not for him but for closure. When he walked in, he looked defeated. Thinner. A shadow of the man I once loved. "Angela," he whispered, voice breaking. "I lost everything.
My job.
My home. My reputation. Please don't take Isaac away from me. I'm begging you." I watched him, really watched him, crumble. Years earlier, that would have softened me.
But now?
His tears felt like karma taking notes. I leaned forward. "You wanted me quiet. You wanted me dependent. You starved me emotionally, mentally, financially." He swallowed, eyes red. "People make mistakes." I nodded.
Yes.
"And consequences follow." I slid a document across the table. A settlement. Supervised visitation only. No authority. No control. No access to my income, my home, or my future. He stared at it with shaking hands. "Please don't do this." I whispered. "You did this. I'm just signing my name." The final court date arrived. The sun was rising over the Charlotte skyline, painting the sky gold, the color of new beginnings. The judge's voice echoed. "Full custody granted to Mrs. Angela Carter." Supervised visitation for the father. Financial restitution required. He covered his face and cried quietly. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. Justice didn't need applause. It just needed truth. As I carried Isaac out of the courthouse, everything felt lighter, brighter. This wasn't revenge driven by hate. This was closure shaped by growth, strength, healing. Months later, my business expanded nationwide. I was featured on 2 podcasts. My story inspired thousands of women to rebuild their lives. One evening on my balcony, Isaac asleep beside me, I whispered into the wind. I didn't just survive him. I outgrew him. And that, not his downfall, not his tears, was the real victory. The poetic justice wasn't that he lost everything. It was that I found myself. Thank you for listening to my story. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share my videos.
Thank you.
Remember, when someone tries to cage your wings, grow new ones, and fly higher than they ever imagined, justice is not always loud. Sometimes it looks like success.